district, I represent Summit County, Lake County, and Eaton County, falls into this area. We're now at 1.5 million acres of dead and dying lodgepole pine forests. That infestation is moving at 300,000 to 500,000 acres per year. It's going to be an issue that's with us for years to come. When we heard that testimony, we also had someone comment on the fact that if you knew Katrina was going to happen in 2 years, wouldn't you do something different? And the answer is yes. The state of Colorado is going to do something different. We're taking a proactive approach. We're dealing with an issue that affects all of the state. Tourism is our #2 economy. There's nothing more important to focus our time and energy on. And so I'm grateful for the work that this committee did. It was bipartisan. It was with the best of intentions. We always say bark beetles don't pick a party. We're about finding solutions, and that was the work that really was reflected in this bill. So thank you. I look forward to bringing resources on the ground that, quite honestly, I didn't think we could necessarily do. That said, we're also not going to let up on asking the federal government to do their part. We still have a lot of work to do at the federal level. So more to come on that, but thank you again today, and thank you, Governor Ritter, for your leadership.
Thank you. With that, are there questions? Yes.
So you said you had already enacted something like 7 laws to address this issue. What is this going to do with these previous laws?
Well, it commits really significant resources. Some of it is around training firefighters, that's part of it. But really, in a more significant way than we've ever been able to do, it is really about cutting trees. And you know, it's called hazardous fuel mitigation. That's sort of the way we talk about it in the building, but what we mean by that is cutting trees to really provide buffer zones to places that need protection from wildfires, and then turning around and committing incentives to people and companies who would utilize that wood for woody biomass, and really, again, to be able to generate electricity from it. Or there are a lot of different things happening right now. There's ethanol and electric generation. There's a company, Range Fuels, they're actually building a big plant in Georgia, and it's all about a different process, a conversion process that converts it to electricity. But I think the most significant things happening on the West Slope have to do with creating ethanol out of the pine beetle. So that's what it does, really, is commit resources in a way we haven't before around all those areas. Before, it's been $1 million a year for 2 years running, and that money was really used for trying to work with communities in establishing plans that put in place buffer zones or cuttings and things like that just protect the community. But this is just so much more money and significant money. You should understand that at the same time we're doing this, we're working with the congressional delegation to advocate massive federal money to help us with this as well, because so much of the forest land that is infected is actually on public lands and on United States Forest Service ground. Other questions?
So, Governor, you may want that federal land to go in and actually cut down. We were working on permission yesterday, or we talked about the money that was moving from the temporary state land and private land?
Both state land, private land. There's communities getting money to do things that involve private land. That's all part of the thinking. On federal lands, forest lands, you do need a permit, but there's money made available already, that's already been made available that allows people to actually be paid to go on to different properties, different public lands, and be paid to cut out pine beetle kill. What we need is a lot more money than we currently have. We have 2 plants operating now. One is in Walden, Colorado. The other one is in Kremling, and they have resources plenty for their manufacturing process that turns it into pellets, and then they sell those pellets as a woody biomass. There are 2 different things in the planning stages. One is in Grand Junction that involves Suncor and a Canadian company called Lignor. 2 Canadian companies coming here and using forest products to actually create ethanol, and pretty significant compared to other projects using woody biomass. There's another one where a Canadian company is looking at Summit County, pretty far down in our planning process. But what we need to do is incentivize more and more and more of that so that we can really utilize this for woody biomass. The federal government has the best ability to do it on sort of the largest scale. This is something that we're doing in a much bigger way than we've ever done before, but we need a federal partner to do it on an even larger scale. was directed specifically to this in the 07-08 budget year. It was $1 million.
From the state?
Well, it was $1 million, but there was a federal match of $1 million that came to that. Then in 08-09, it was a little bit, but I think it was increased. The base was increased slightly, but it was a little over $1 million with the same match going up. So, you know, it's a 5-year plan, but I think we all recognize that that was too little money, and yes, we'd love to have all the resources necessary to fully address this, but this then is an infusion of money from the severance tax operational account that basically increases, fivefold. It increases the amount of money we've been putting in as a state. So, Rick, you want to add something to this?
If I could just very quickly, 2 years ago, $1 million was allocated from the perpetual base account for these purposes for the state. Last year, $1 million was allocated from the DNR operational account. This takes it up to $5.5 million, and our hope is, based on our projections, that this is a program that will continue in the future. So we're looking at this hopefully on a multi-year basis. The Forest Service receives considerably more money in the region. We're working with Rick Abel's regional forester to ensure that hopefully the Forest Service will contribute generously to the overall needs of this program. I believe Tony Dixon's here, the deputy director, but there's a $175 million request this year by the Forest Service for regional needs, and hopefully Colorado will be getting a significant portion.
Is there federal magic for 5 million as well, or is the portion of that include
There's not right now a formal federal match, but it's our expectation that as the state puts up greater resources, that will allow the federal government to correspondingly increase their contribution to programs in Colorado.
So of this $5.5 million, does this take the land out of that equation? You said it's a representative Salem said it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when that you're going to have. How far toward removing the land is $5.5 million?
You know, I've had a lot of talks with experts here, and what they will say is that the risk of fire is actually not elevated in a significant way when the needles have turned red on the dead pine beetle trees. There is an elevated risk, but it's not elevated as significantly as when those trees become barren and actually blow over and then stack up like you pile firewood. And we're not at that stage yet. And so we still have every opportunity to mitigate against that by cutting and doing significant things now. If the Forest Service were to receive its $175 million, the request from Congress, that would really be significant. And, you know, we're a place that experiences wildfires. The question is what we can do to mitigate against the spread of wildfires that's due to pine beetle, and just take every action we can. If we work with the federal government in partnership, then we have every, I think, capability of actually doing that. We'll still experience wildfires because we always have. That is part of it. But the fact of the matter is it can be so much more limited in the breadth of the damage done if we take this kind of action now. Thank you very much.